E-portfolios in schools are not necessarily a new concept, but the way I'm presenting it through the use of Evernote and Pistachio is different from prior implementations of an e-portfolio. Some of the problems that we had with e-portfolios previously were that the biggest one was it was a proprietary system. That meant that the challenges with previous e-portfolio systems has been that they are proprietary. They require hardware, software on site, and it limits the audience to the work submitted. So by this, a school may have to invest in software in order to run an e-portfolio system, which may also require additional hardware, all of which comes out of a budget that we already know is shrinking. And then that system may only be designed as a receiving system where it receives the files but it doesn't do anything with them as far as displaying. Well, we live in the 21st century now, and we have for 14 years and counting. And the idea that we're limiting the audience of our students' work to just whoever has access to the e-portfolio system boggles my mind. We need to put our work out there and put our students out there in order for them to truly be 21st century learners and contributing to the global world. So when you submit your work to an e-portfolio system, I guess the question I have to ask is, where does it go? Well, usually what happens is when you submit it, it creates a record in a database, and then it's stored there. Well, who sees that? Well, that could be maybe the IT admin who's working on migrating it over. Maybe it could be the person who's reviewing it. But oftentimes that audience does not include the 4th grade class next door, or the 2nd grade class down the hall, or mom and dad at home, grandma and grandpa out in the neighboring town, or the global world at large. So what does it mean? Or what does it measure? What does it measure, and what is the relevance? If I'm submitting something and you have me doing work, it better have relevance and it better be measured. That's what I expect in the year 2014. So when I was working on my associate's degree, we had to submit papers in classes where designated. If we didn't submit the papers, we didn't get a grade. That was their tie-in. We're not going to give you a grade in college until you submit a paper on a topic that's not even relevant to the class that you're teaching. The papers were typically centered around diversity, which didn't have any relevance to the class at hand, except for maybe 1 or 2 classes out of my entire associate degree career. Was it measuring anything learned in that class? No. Was it useful? No. Again, I go back to the statement: when I create something, I want to know that I created a piece of work that had a purpose and was measured and useful. How does Pistachio change that? Well, the biggest thing that Pistachio achieves is the fact that it takes it from a local to a global audience. The audience goes from being local to being a global audience. This right here, this nerdbob.com, just made my post go from reaching the confines of Columbus, Ohio, to reaching the confines of the world. Another thing I find really incredible with this is learning recall. As you use Pistachio to document and show your work, and using Evernote to store that work, you're creating this trail. So let's imagine that you created a diagram of the water cycle last year, and now you're being asked to recall the water cycle in another class in the following year, but you don't remember the steps this year. Well, you can use Pistachio and Evernote and the tags to go back and find that diagram of the water cycle in the process that you mentioned and recall that learning and have it right there. I'm originally from Lima, Ohio, and our reputation in Lima, Ohio, and that area of the state of Ohio had always been built on your word and character. Our audience was those we knew in the population from the area around us. Well, in the 21st century, with the audience now global, how do I go about distinguishing myself from the other Bob Greens in the world? I mean, I know another Bob Green, and that's my dad. How do I go and distinguish the work that I'm doing from the work that he's doing? Well, that all goes back to creating a digital portfolio and a digital footprint. And I've done that through here. If you now type in Bob Greene EdTech or Bob Greene West Central Learning Academy or Bob Greene Ohio Alliance for Public Charter Schools, you're going to find my information there. You're not going to confuse me with my dad. And another thing that Pistachio changes is it makes the ePortfolio portable. So within Evernote, one of their 3 laws of data that they have is that your data is yours and your data is portable. So that means that if I don't want to use Evernote anymore, I can export my data out and take it with me wherever I go. It can be exported out in an XML format or in an Evernote note format. So if you were moving Evernote and wanted to import it into a different account. So the big thing that we're changing here is having that data travel with the student from grade to grade, school to school, and beyond. That's the biggest key here, I think, is that the data is not tied to one single system. It can easily be taken with the student as they go. Thank you.